So welcome to WTF Stories and Advice. I'm Caroline Cranshaw.
And I'm in Melbourne. I'm Daryl.
Now, is it Melbourne or is it Melbourne? Because I hear Australians say Melbourne and people from the UK seem to say Melbourne and Americans say Melbourne, but I only hear Australians say Melbourne.
I think that's just laziness. Like when they call it, instead of Australia, they say Straya. I'm from Straya. So they don't say Australia. I'm from Straya. I'm from Melbourne. So I think well-spoken Australians call it Melbourne.
Do they?
Yes. And lazy Australians call it Melbourne. I'm from Melbourne, Australia.
I'll be sure to tell the people I know from Melbourne who've corrected me when I said Melbourne that they're just lazy, according to Daryl Gove.
I've offended a whole country yet again.
Okay. Well, that wouldn't be the first time.
Nope.
So, if you don't know us, we are two hypnotherapists that talk shit. We answer listeners' letters. We talk about random news stories. And today we have, well, Daryl doesn't know what we have, but I know what we have. A little story from Reddit. Now, we don't normally, have we ever done a story from Reddit? I don't know if we have. But
no.
I saw this girl reading this story on TikTok and I was riveted. I had to watch all 5 parts of this story and was like, wow. And I need an update. And so I went and found the update and I just thought it would be a good little story to tell and see what you guys think.
Ooh, sounds exciting. Is it scary woo or sexy sexy?
It's not either of those things.
Okay. Far away. Let's go.
It's family drama of the most crazy kind. So it was originally posted, and I'll put a link down below so you can go read it if you want to, in the forum True Off My Chest. And the poster was Blown Up Marriage 1. And the title of this post is I Ruined My Mom's Life and Reputation.
Oh.
Yes. My 40 female, I guess she's referring to herself. She's a 40-year-old female. Parents, dad, male 63, mom 60 female, have been married for 43 years. I have 6 siblings, 42 female, 38 female, 34 female.
This is great. She should do this for a living.
Sorry. Once we get through the numbers, it's all good. She's just describing her siblings, right? So there's a 42-year-old female. She's obviously a 40-year-old female, 38-year-old female, 34-year-old female, 2 twins, 20-year-old males, and 1 18-year-old male, right? So they have 6 children from 40 to 18.
Well done.
I've been with my husband, 39-year-old male, since we were 15. I got pregnant at 17 and we moved in with my parents. I gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter. We got married at 18 shortly after. My dad's father passed away shortly after our wedding and left his ranch-style house to my father. My grandparents built a house next door to my parents when they retired. My parents decided to let us live in this house and told us it would be my inheritance. My husband and I had no issue with this. We went on to have not only a 22-year-old daughter, but a 20-year-old son, 14-year-old daughter, 5-year-old daughter. And I am currently 7 months pregnant with my last child, a boy due in April.
It feels like the beginning of the Bible. You know, when they go from Adam and Eve all the way down to, and he begat this one, and then they gave birth to, the Bible gets better. This will too.
Yeah. Exactly. I thought I had a good marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week. We went on date nights. We bought each other gifts. We didn't fight. My entire world was shattered on New Year's Eve when I returned early from a girls' trip I had taken with some friends. I walked into my bedroom to find my mom having sex with my husband. My mother Yep. Well, you just take that one in. Her 60-year-old mother having sex with her 39-year-old husband. My mother screamed at me to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter was also home in her bedroom across the house getting ready for a party. She ran out and witnessed my all but in a bedsheet naked mother run out of our house next door to her house and slam the door. My daughter was devastated. So the daughter was home when they were sleeping together, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I first talked to my husband. I asked her the truth. He told me that my mom seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They had been having unprotected sex for at least once a month for longer than we were married.
Oh my God.
I ran the math and was horrified because the timeline meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be my husband's.
Oh, fuck. Hold on. Holy fucking okay. Shit.
Yeah. I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mom. I made my husband confess, and my dad was devastated. He and my mom were high school sweethearts, too. Needless to say, we could hear my mother screaming from her house when he confronted her. I then told my older sister, and she and I decided to throw a party for the whole extended family, and we invited my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my 22-year-old daughter take all the kids to our basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings, and I told them exactly what they'd been doing.
that was the dog dropping its bone, like it heard what you said.
Mic drop.
I mean, well done for the way she staged that.
Wow. Yeah, that takes some balls.
That's some big lady balls.
She's got some ovaries on her. How betrayed would you be, though, to find out your mother and husband have been sleeping together for 20 years? Or more than 20 years.
It's just beyond anything that I could comprehend. And to find out that your siblings may in fact be your husband's children.
Yeah.
They may, yeah, that doesn't even make sense. Where I'm from, I won't give too many details, but one of the towns that I lived in, there was a girl, she was about 18, and her mother was sleeping with her boyfriend. It was found out, and it was a small town, so she had to leave and move somewhere else. And I've come across her because she's advertising her services in the area where I live now. And every time I see her name, I'm like, that's the woman who slept with her daughter's boyfriend. And it was really, really bad. I think that was once, and that's a family ruined. It's lots and lots of lives ruined. And also, it's kind of creepy. An 18-year-old and a 40-year-old, that's a little bit creepy.
Either way, like even when it's an 18-year-old girl and a 40-year-old man, I just think, ugh. Anywho, so most of the family is on my side except for my 3 youngest siblings, my 38-year-old sister, and ex's entire family. They all say I'm an asshole for dropping this publicly. Word got out, and my mom's best friend, who is in leadership at my mom's church, my childhood church, called me to verify. My mom has since been let go as the children's pastor there, and she claims I've essentially ruined her reputation and life. My dad kicked her out.
Yeah, her daughter did that. It wasn't her when she slept with her daughter's husband for 20 years.
My dad kicked her out, and she's now living with my 38-year-old sister. And lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he'd consider anything to do with their marriage. The twins are my husband's children. I've 6. So not only are they her brothers, they're also her stepsons.
Shit. Hold on.
They're her half brothers and
she's their stepmother.
Technically.
Oh.
I know.
Ugh. Yes.
Yeah, gets a bit complicated. I've since kicked him out and he's living with his parents. My father and I are discussing me moving into his much larger house and him selling my grandfather's house and him giving me the money to buy a new house somewhere else to get rid of the memories. My husband is appalled and furious that I have proved he's actually about to have 7 kids instead of 5. And that I'm going to take half his business away from him. My husband started his own company a few years back, and for the first 5 years, I helped him get it set up, ran the office completely, took time away from my teaching career to help him get this established. In my state, all marital assets, including businesses, are split 50-50. Since the house was in my father's name, still in my father's name, my husband will get no money from the sale. Neither will my mother, since inherited assets are not subject to be split in divorces. My mother is also not likely to get any alimony, as our state is not a no-fault divorce state. Because that's pretty shitty. If you have an affair, treat your spouse like shit, and then still get alimony, that's bullshit.
I don't think that alimony's too much of a thing outside of USA. Is it? I know when there's children involved, yes, but without children,
they're definitely, especially if a woman spent her life looking after the children, definitely you can get alimony.
But I think they get like a lump sum payment, for example, in New Zealand. But if the children are grown up, I don't think that there's a regular payment.
They call it spousal support, and you can get it up to 3 years after the marriage ends.
Right, so just a short time.
Yeah, not forever. Whereas, I had several friends whose parents got divorced and the fathers are still paying alimony 20 years later.
Wow.
So it is a thing. But her mother's not getting it. I am now.
I'm happy.
I'm happy too.
I'm happy about that.
I am now over a month removed. I guess it's been over a month, and still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially at her hypocrisy of calling me a whore and shaming my family when she's done much worse. I also despise my ex with everything within me now, as he is fucking both my mom and me in some instances, coming to our bed minutes later. He got my mother pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant, and while I thought it was so cute and fun that I shared a pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half-siblings.
Oh.
He has broken all trust I know I've had in men and all trust I had in men and being faithful. I have gotten a good lawyer from the firm that helped us in financial matters for both me and my dad is helping me pay for it. My twin brothers, one of my sisters, and my entire ex's family has gone no contact with me and my minor children. And my children have essentially lost all of their grandparents but my dad, 2 uncles, and an aunt on my side, my husband's 3 brothers, due to this mess. I have developed ulcers and digestive issues because of this, so I'm visiting the doctor soon, and I've been in therapy since the first week of January. I've offered this for my 2 adult children if they need family therapy with all of us, but they're doing individual therapy right now. Well, good for her. She's doing therapy, so.
Yeah.
My 14-year-old knows we're getting divorced and why, and she's so angry at her dad that I struggle to send her to his house on the weekends. I feel like she's old enough to make a decision on that, but I don't want to damage her relationship with her father. I've told all my kids it's okay to love their dad, even if he hurt me, but the 2 oldest have cut him off completely. I won't tell my youngest 2 until they're teens of why they got divorced. I mean, she's still pregnant at this point. And everyone else has agreed not to spill anything until they're old enough to understand. How do you understand that? Oh, by the way, you know how your father and I got divorced when we were pregnant, when I was pregnant with you? Oh, that's because Daddy was having sex with Grandma.
Yeah. There's so much to unpack there, isn't there? Like, just the absolute devastation that this is causing to the writer, the one that's telling the story. I mean, trust in men, trust in her family, trust in her husband, it just disappear. Then the kids, the loss that they've got. And come on, I mean, yes, having a big public announcement of somebody's wrongdoing perhaps isn't the best way to handle it. On the other hand, they had it fucking coming.
Yeah.
Like that, if that is the only revenge that she took, it is not enough. Like that sometimes revenge is necessary. And I think that they got off light. I mean, it should be illegal. And for people to cut her off because of how she told them, that's not fair. That's just an excuse. They're just wanting to put their heads in the sand and not deal with it. And it's easier if they just cut her off. Then they don't have to worry about her feelings. They're selfish pricks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they've cut her off, but they're still talking to him.
Yeah, what's that about? Come on.
Like, if you want to be judgmental, really, then you should cut everyone off. I don't know. When it's your own child, you're going to be like, what the hell? But it was pure coincidence that I came home a day early from a trip because I was uncomfortable from being 7 months pregnant and just wanted my own bed for me to find out. Knowing that they would still be carrying on this full-blown affair if I hadn't caught them is what I'm still really upset about. The fact that the grandmother and father of my children cared so little about destroying their families is what I can't get past. What's hardest for me is my own mother would do this to me and would continue to do this for years and not caring when it all blew up in her face that she'd be destroying her entire family. Also, to add insult to injury, my husband confirmed in one of our mediated conversations the affair started when I apparently made him angry. He didn't tell me and instead vented to my mother when they were alone. She comforted him and they had sex. He loved it and then pursued her after that. He said he would have divorced me, but he knew he'd get cut off from her and she was so much better at sex than me, so stuck it out with me. He told me I was a placeholder.
He said that?
Of all the betrayal, of all the betrayal and low blows, that's the statement that keeps me up at night.
That is evil. That is, all of this is wrong, right? People make mistakes and people do bad things, but what he's doing is blaming her for it. And he's deflecting the whole situation by saying, well, that statement, she's so much better at sex, that's like blaming her. Well, your sex wasn't good enough. If your sex was better, then I would have slept with you, but it wasn't good enough, so I had to sleep with your mom. Fuck off. Like, just fuck off. Like, that's just, like, if she ever hears this podcast, I'm like, please do. And if anybody's had a situation where somebody's done something bad and they've said, oh, but if you were just more loving or if you were just more kind, then I wouldn't have done that. It says, no, tell them to fuck off. That's not the case. You can't turn it around and blame the victim here, which is what he's doing. That's evil.
And even if you thought it, keep it to yourself. Here's the thing, people. If you get caught in an affair, don't tell them every little thing you think. I have so many clients who are just so wounded when the guy's like, oh, she was much tighter than you, and it's because you have a loose pussy that I did this, or all these things that they just never get over the trauma of someone saying this to her. And it's just awful.
If you like today, I've got this super cool NLP technique, which really quickly takes those voices out of your head and makes you not believe them anymore. So we could do that.
Well, we're halfway through the letter.
Later.
Do you want to do that now or should we do it after?
Do it after.
Okay. My mom fucked my husband for 22 years, got pregnant with twins, continued the affair until I caught them in bed together on New Year's Eve when I was 7 months pregnant. I publicly exposed it. My mom lost her job, her marriage, and is homeless. I tried hard to go the route of a mediated divorce, but my ex told me yesterday through his lawyers that he doesn't believe the baby I'm carrying is his, and he wants a DNA test as soon as he's born because he doesn't want to support a child that isn't his. He also believes I routinely cheated on him throughout our marriage and that I knew about his ongoing affair and used it as an excuse to have my own affairs.
What? I see there he is blaming her again.
Yeah.
Again, fuck off. Sorry to swear so much, but no, he doesn't get away with that. Carry on.
None of this is true, but I kind of wish it was because it would make the divorce easier. My lawyer basically told me to get ready for a long, drawn-out, brutal, contested divorce and that my ex is likely to go to try every underhanded tactic in the book to make my life even more miserable.
Yep.
So now we're going into updates. My twin brothers look exactly like my egg donor side of the family. So that's the mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
They look very close to my uncle and grandfather. They clearly don't look like my dad at all, but they also don't resemble my husband much either. My son looks like my soon-to-be ex, and he's the only child that you can visibly tell is his kid, although my 14-year-old daughter has his nose and jaw shape. 1, I was definitely enraged the day everything went down, but my dad talked me off the murder ledge and reminded me that I needed to think of my baby and my other kids before I did something that would remove both their parents from their lives. That is what spared them. I still lived in a rage fog for the next few days, which is what led to the revenge party.
Good girl.
I only regret not telling my brothers privately that my mother had been cheating. Well, that's fair enough, because her brothers were there when they said, oh, by the way, your dad's not your dad, and it's my husband.
Yeah, that isn't fair on them.
No.
But she was in a rage, so.
2, I honestly don't know all the reasons my 38-year-old sister is on my mother's side. She doesn't get along with me or my sisters and hasn't since high school. I'm not that worried about her. My twin brothers are very upset that I sprung the news so publicly. That is what my dad has gotten out of them. They're also in therapy, and my dad has told them to just give them time. He thinks that it's just them killing the messenger. I did not tell them the possibility that my ex was their dad, but they can do the math. Oh, so they don't know. But they can do the math and figured out that they're the same age as my son and he's younger than the length of the affair. My dad sat them down and explained his reasoning for the DNA test was to prove cheating and not because he was going to abandon them. He is their dad, regardless of whose sperm fertilized the egg. 4. I don't believe that my mother and soon-to-be ex waited until he was 18 to have sex. But at this point, I'm letting my dad fight that fight and letting him do what he needs to do with dealing with her and their divorce. I have a contingency plans to enact in the event they decide to move in together, but my lawyer doesn't believe my ex is stupid enough to do that with the divorce proceedings turning ugly. I forgot to add this in earlier, but my husband is 4 months younger than me. My birthday is in December, his is in April. He will be 40 soon. We are in the same graduating class all through school from kindergarten through high school. He is not a full year younger than me, as others have speculated. I am focusing on my pregnancy, my kids, and moving on. I may provide an update after the divorce is finalized, but thanks for everyone for the support and advice. I guess lots of people are supporting her. Thanks for letting this hormonal, sad, ragey, bitter woman vent and get this off her chest. Now we got another update. I had a phone conversation with my aunt today, on my mother's side, and she told me there's a family history of cheating in our family on their side of the family. My grandmother cheated on my grandpa for years, but they reconciled, and my aunt herself had multiple affairs, but is still married to my uncle. She tried to blame genetics on my mom's affair. I laughed out loud at the absurdity of that attempt to justify her affair, and my aunt is now mad at me for not hearing out my mother and her explanations for cheating. My dad and lawyer both say I should hear her out, so I'm considering doing that right before we meet in early March to establish custody. I should mention that I asked my aunt if my mama inherited the whore gene, whose child does she pass it on to, and how does my grandma manage to pass it on to both her daughters? So that's probably why she's mad in retrospect. I have honestly lost all sympathy for cheaters after that. Okay, final update.
Ready.
I gave birth to my son in the beginning of April. He is healthy and I have no health complications. At the end of March, I was able to get temporary full physical and legal custody of my kids. My 14-year-old daughter has asked me if I'd be willing to do family therapy with her and her father. Did not want to do it. I fought it, but eventually chose to do so for the sake of my daughter and her need to process everything and hopefully move on. I learned a lot about the relationship between my ex and my mother due to the homework the therapist gave us. My ex did reveal more things which I believe are true. My mother actually tried to seduce him well before we were of age. For my ex's recollection, when my mother took over the youth group when I was 15 and he was a few months from turning 15, the grooming began then. She'd counsel him privately when he needed it. They kissed when he was still 14, and that's all they did, meaning they made out during these sessions until he was 18. It was right around the time of the first kiss that my mom convinced him to ask me out and date me so they could keep seeing each other without suspicion. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So she's been grooming him since he was 14 years old. And basically, wow.
And then she sacrificed her daughter to hide what she was doing, and so she could keep doing it.
At this revelation, I was devastated. My entire relationship was built on a lie, and my husband never loved me. And also a sense of relief knowing that I had absolutely nothing to do with their affair. The reason I believe this is true is that when he asked me out, I had to get permission from my parents to date. At the time, there was a rule that no one could date before the age of 16. My mom went to bat for me, or so I thought. We started dating right after he turned 15. The timeline adds up. My dad is currently looking into potential other cases of abuse and manipulation right now with the help of the church officials. Nothing has turned up, and truthfully, while I hate my mother, I find it hard to believe she'd have the stamina to carry on multiple affairs with other boys. I think she seduced him knowing I liked him and wanted to feel superior over me. Looking back, this makes sense. Her treatment of me, my children, in relationship to her other grandkids, I think this was seriously a fucked up case of her being a narcissist and punishing me for ruining her life. They did not have full sex until he turned 18, and I guess it was his birthday present from her.
I'm sorry, does anybody believe that?
No.
No. Okay,
No.
good. Sorry, but
My 22-year-old daughter and 20-year-old son are still not speaking to him, which he has come to grips with and understand they're likely to never reestablish contact with him. The twins and I have reconciled fully. Now for my mother. After the last phone call with my aunt, I cut off contact with her and my grandmother. I was tired of my aunt trying to guilt trip me into talking to my mother. My grandmother is a whole other problem and is beginning to show the signs of dementia and senility. She is still harassing my mother and calling her the whore of Babylon, which I'm actually okay with.
Mm-hmm.
But the other stuff she's doing and saying is not something I want to add to my life. My 34-year-old sister and 42-year-old sister were the ones who helped me with the labor and delivery plan. My ex knew the plans, what the plans were, but also knew that I did not want him at the hospital until I had already given birth and was in a better place for him to meet a son. He agreed to do this. The day I went into labor, my sister took my younger children to her home while my other sister was with me in the room. Apparently, one of my children needed something from school and reached out to my ex to pick it up as he was still on the official pickup list and drop it off at my sister's house. My mother was with him when he took the call. He refused to let her come along as I did not want my children around my mother. She apparently followed him in her car to the store and then to my sister's house and threw a complete tantrum on the front lawn of my sister's house. My ex then broke up with her and told her she was too much drama and it just wasn't worth it anymore. And she flew into a rage and physically attacked him and started destroying things in my sister's yard. The cops were called and my mother was arrested for domestic violence. At this point, my ex, my sister, and I have all taken out orders of protection against her due to the instability and the situation.
But you know what really happened, though? Do you know why he really broke up with her?
Why?
He discovered a granny, someone 20 years older than that.
Oh, no. Oh, well, he's probably realizing that this woman has just manipulated him and actually really ruined his life in a lot of ways.
Well, he is the victim of abuse.
He is.
Let's be clear. Like, he did a bad thing, but the mother is in this circumstances, the perpetrator. She's the person that committed crime and groomed him. And although he is responsible for his actions as an adult, this started while he was a child. His brain had 10 more years of development while she was grooming him and having sex with him. So I'm not saying she should forgive the ex. Probably I wouldn't. But yeah, it's the mum, the crazy mum.
Yeah.
And their right to take out protection orders and keep her away from the family.
It's crazy. My ex moved into an apartment close to his company. My 14-year-old daughter has decided not to forgive him and told him she doesn't want to be around him, so only the 5-year-old visits my ex. He comes to my dad's house and visits her one weeknight and one weekend evening when I take my other kids and twin brothers out for dinner. We've established contact and we'll be revisiting the custody issue in June. I will be pursuing full legal and physical custody until my ex can prove to me he's done the necessary therapy and treatment he needs. I still hate my ex with everything in my being for what he did to me from the time I was 15 until recently. But I hate my mother far more for what she did to all of us. I do have some sympathy for him, and I truly want him to be okay for the sake of my kids. Yes, he has met his newborn son. He met him on the night I gave birth. I also allowed his parents and brothers to meet him as well. His parents and I are currently setting up plans for the kids to have time with them as well when they come to visit my newborn. My ex has allowed supervised visitation at this point, not court-ordered, but my wishes, which he is adhering to, and he gets regular time with the other kids, or with the 5-year-old. He does get access to our newborn at least once a week. He's seen his son at least 6 times since I gave birth and 3 in my presence. We're slowly building a civilized communication. As for the other divorce proceedings, he's agreed to a mediated, uncontested divorce, and I'll be getting half of everything, including the business. I'm choosing to sell my shares to one of my ex's workers who will likely become a partner. The ex is happy with this, and I'll be happy to completely get rid of any ties to my ex. My dad was able to sell my old house. It didn't even get listed as our realtor knew a family looking, and I began looking for houses about 45 minutes away. As for my mother, she has gone into hiding. Once the twins told her unequivocally that they would never live with her and they wanted nothing to do with her, especially after how she got arrested, she began a whole lot of guilt tripping and blaming them. She is now contesting the divorce of my dad and only speaking to him through a lawyer. As for my 38-year-old sister, she got a wake-up call from this whole thing when my mother called her and berated her for 45 minutes for not bailing her out of jail. Apparently, my sister... Yes, you do.
You're so bad. Good children bail their mums out of jail.
I know. When they beat up everybody and throw shit on someone's lawn. Apparently, my sister had been going through fertility issues. I had no idea. And she's been stressed out and anxious and feeling bad about herself, which is why she let our mother manipulate her, because she felt good about herself that she was getting all the positive attention for once. When she wasn't willing to pay the money to bail her out, as she and her partner were saving up for IVF, she realized that she was being manipulated and reached out to me. We have slowly begun talking again, and she is on my side regarding this. She's also talking to my dad again, which for his sake, I'm happy that he can reconnect with her. Having my son, by the way, we did do a DNA test, and he is definitely my ex's, has been a pleasure and a joy. And he and my other kids and my support system of my dad and siblings has got me through this and will continue to do so. I'm hopeful at some point I'll be able to deal with my ex without anger and bitterness, seeing as he is traumatized from what my mother did to him, and I'll be okay. This is my last update. Thank you for all your kindness, love, and support. Yeah.
Well, that was a bit of a shock that she must have felt when she found out. That's the biggest kind of shock. Like, that's just, I don't want to say unrecoverable because everything is recoverable, right? She can reset her nervous system. She can get therapy. She can get help. But that's massive. And her loss, she's lost everything except for her kids. She's lost her family, her ex's family, her mom. Shit a brick.
Yeah.
Fart a crowbar.
And you would just feel so manipulated, really, wouldn't you?
I've never heard of that level of betrayal by a family member. I mean, I've heard of shit things, but I've never heard of, hey, date my daughter and marry her so that I can sleep with you for 20 years. And the mum knowing the whole time this is what was going on. Like, that's some evil shit. That's pure evil. Like, definitely if there's a hell, she's going there and she's going to like burn.
I don't know if I believe you burn in hell, but maybe she'll come back and her daughter will do the same to her. I don't know. Well, I mean, it sounds like she's going through a world of pain right now. Like her whole life is completely imploded, but
she's not taking responsibility for it. She's not saying that I fucked up. I did a really bad thing. I'm a bad person. I need to go and get some help. She's blaming other people. She's angry.
So you mentioned that you had a technique that can help clear those memories or trauma.
Yeah, so this technique is for, it's funny, I've been using it a lot lately. I don't know why. Probably that's why it came into mind. When people tell you stuff and it sticks in your mind, what they've said, and you kind of believe it, and even though you maybe logically know it's not true, but it's still in there. Maybe it's a parent or a teacher, and it's just a really quick technique that will just make it that you don't believe that anymore. You just feel differently about it. And maybe I can do it with you, Caroline, really quick, and then anybody that's listening at home can join in if they've got a voice to change. Do you have something that somebody said to you once that was hurtful or continues to kind of eat away at you in any way?
Trying to think. I'm sure there's something. Do I have to say it out loud?
No, you don't. You don't have to say it out loud.
I can think of one thing, but I wouldn't want to say it out loud.
Okay, so get that thing, okay? And what I want you to do is tell me somebody that you know is a liar and you definitely don't trust, but don't make it your ex. It could be a political figure, a politician, a celebrity, or someone you know in life that you just know lies all the time.
Oh, I can think of one. I don't know if I want to say that either.
That's okay. So you don't have to say, but you've got someone and you know they're a liar.
Yeah. Yep. And they've recently resigned, which I'm quite happy about. Ish.
I know exactly who it is. So what you want to do is I want you to visualize that person in front of you, okay? So visualize that person in front of you, and I want you to make them funny. So you can give them boobs on their face or put them in a tutu or do whatever.
There's enough cartoons and horrible caricatures of this person that I can picture that quite easily.
Mm-hmm. So they're funny to look at, and give them like a really funny voice, like a voice that would make you laugh if you heard it.
Yeah.
Maybe farts come out of their mouth when they talk, or it's like they've sucked a helium balloon. Yeah?
Yeah. I'm like their neighing like a horse.
And so imagine now that this person, with looking in the funny version of them, is neighing as they're telling you those words that you heard.
Okay.
So they're telling you that expression. Okay, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You can hear that?
Yep.
And now I want you to point at them.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to swing them behind you by moving your hand round to your back. So physically point at them.
Okay.
They're neighing and look stupid and they look ridiculous and it makes you laugh.
Wrong, bitch!
It's so funny. And then behind you, and then put it so far back that the voice just kind of shrinks and shrinks until there's nothing.
Okay. Yeah, they're just floating off into space.
Now look at three things in the room.
Hmm.
Now think of that expression and how do you feel differently now?
Feels like it's gone.
Yeah, it's good, eh?
Yeah. It's like I actually have a hard time remembering what it even was. That's weird.
And if it were to come back, what could you do?
Pour acid on it.
Yeah, or you could just repeat it, right? So if it ever comes back, that voice in your head of that person telling you whatever it was,
Mhm.
then you just make it funny, have that person that you know is a liar saying it to you, you know it's not true, swing it behind you into the distance and let it fade away. And if you do that 2 or 3 times, it can't come back. You're in control now.
Cool. Well, that's good.
It's excellent.
What if it is true?
So somebody told you something that's true. No, like maybe not you, but so say somebody says something that's true and it sticks in your head. Well, maybe you're meant to do something about it if it's in your head. If somebody told you something and it is true.
Tell you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I had this boy who was a really good friend of mine who tried to kiss me one night or one day. I was at his house and I was like waiting to be picked up by my mother. And I must have been like 15 or something. And he tried to kiss me and I was like, no, 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 we're just friends. And he like got really, you could tell he was upset. And then he's like, I wouldn't want to kiss you anyways because you have a double chin. And I was like, oh, thanks a lot. I said, well, you just tried. So whatever. And I just walked out of the house. But I do have a bit of a double chin. That is true. I don't really worry about it or think about it.
I mean, I've never seen it.
But, we will have these little things about ourselves that may be
Mhm.
true. Like, people who get obsessed like with their noses or some aspect of their body. I mean, could I do something about having a bit of a double chin? I don't know. I could get lipo under my chin. Can I really be fucked doing that? No. It's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah, and those things are hurtful, and you can tell he did it because he was rejected.
Yeah.
But what I would do rewind for that, rewind where for people that are listening that won't know what it is, you put the image up on a screen in your mind and you fast forward it and rewind it and you make it funny. So it's a similar kind of thing, but just make that whole thing like take the energy out of it.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is like, there are no perfect people. We all will have some little flaw or fault or several faults, but that's okay. Like, no one is perfect. And I think if you keep trying to be perfect all the time, you're going to just drive yourself crazy.
And do you know what that guy didn't do? Even though he insulted you, what he didn't do is go, well, she's got a double chin. I'm going to sleep with her mom. Although your mom's hot.
All the boys used to call my mother a MILF when I was young. They tried, I'm sure. But luckily, my mother did not sleep with any of my friends' boyfriends, as far as I know. I did have some friends whose mothers did supposedly do that. There was rumors about certain friends' mothers, but who the fuck knows? But my mother was no angel either. I don't know.
Isn't there a movie where they swap sons? There's a movie on Netflix and there's two moms. I've never watched it. And they've both got like older teenage sons. I don't know, I guess 18. And they sleep with each other's sons or something like that.
I think there's a new dating show where it's like the mothers and sons, and then the mothers set each other up with each other's sons. I don't know. MILFs and their sons. I don't know what it's called, but it's like, yeah. Hey, do you have any? I thought we'd also, because we haven't done this for a while. Do you have any like TV show or book recommendations? I'll tell you what I really like, and then you can tell me what you like. A show I've watched recently that I thought was great it's called Poker Face and it's Natasha Lyonne.
Okay, yeah.
And it's really good. And she I'm not sure if she writes it, but she definitely directs it. She might be one of the writers on it, but she's the star of it. And she's kind of this like girl just doing her own thing, but she has this thing where she can tell if anybody's lying.
Ooh.
And so every episode she gets into some situation where shit goes down, like someone always seems to die or something crazy happens, and she figures it out. And like, it happens every single time, and she has to go on the run, but it's really good, really engaging, and she's just great. I really like her, but I think this is one of the best things she's done. So Poker Face. If you're in New Zealand, it's on TVNZ. I don't know where it is in the States, but or other countries, but check it out. I definitely recommend it.
That sounds really good. Yeah, that sounds exciting.
It is good.
And I'm not really watching TV at the moment. I'm making my way through Bond films.
Mm,
So it
nice.
started with the guy in the 90s with GoldenEye, and then we're on to Daniel Craig,
Oh, yeah.
which is quite nice. But he gets really boring after a couple because he got really bored filming them and he didn't want to do it, and he did it for the money, not for love, apparently. And so they're just not going to be getting better after Skyfall. And Married at First Sight, of course, which I'm totally addicted to. And in Australia, there's a week ahead. So what do you think I did on my first free day in Australia? I just sat and watched a whole week's worth to catch up and get ahead. And oh my God, if you haven't watched it and you like a bit of drama, Google Australian Married at First Sight because it is something else.
It is the best out of all the countries that do Married at First Sight. Like, I'll try to watch other ones, and I just am like, nah, there's not even one iota of the drama that is on the Australian Married at First Sight. It's the best reality show.
My friends in Scotland watch Married at First Sight, and I was speaking to one the other day, and she was like, "Oh well, we have it here, but everyone here's talking about the Australian one and how good it is and the drama."
It really is. Oh, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a real class in narcissists and gaslighting and what that looks like and how to recognize it.
Yeah, I almost stopped watching it because they've just allowed in this series a narcissist to go around gaslighting everyone and really hurting people. And I thought, you know what, this is getting to the stage where it's cruel. Like this is real people's lives, it's real people's feelings. But then I thought, do you know what? So many women in particular are going to watch this and they're going to see what this guy is doing and they're going to learn. So if it's happening to them, they're going to spot it. And I think the public service that the show is doing in educating people what gaslighting looks like and what a narcissist looks like is just gold.
Absolutely, because it's yeah, I mean, they do I think they should be stepping in more, they should be saying something.
Mhm.
The experts should be really just hammering this one particular person who is just such a textbook narcissist, it's not even funny. And I'd say he's a malignant narcissist where he just has to attack other people as a deflection. It's not just, "I'm so good," and the acting, he's he's a great actor, and he is so bad. Fake cries all the time. It is just like, oh, and no one believes it. No one buys it when he does it. And it's just like, "Oh, buddy, how long does this actually work for you?"
Well, all of Australia is going to know. All of Australia is, and
Yeah.
if you watch this from another country, then you're going to know too, and his reputation is going to be down. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I recommend that. And book wise, I'll tell you next time. I'm reading the Lord of the Rings prequels at the moment, which are amazing, but I don't know if it's everyone's cup of tea. It's fantasy novels, but they're originally Tolkien. He didn't write Lord of the Rings, so he wrote all these prequels, which were not prequels; they were the main books. And after he wrote The Hobbit and got that published, they said, "Can you write another book with The Hobbit in it? We don't want your other books; we want you to write a new one." So he wrote Lord of the Rings. But this other stuff is where the lore comes from. It's where the world comes from. Some of the characters come from them, like the elves, like Galadriel and Elrond. And it's full of really cool magic and much better baddies and much, yeah, much more emotional stories. So yeah, if you like Lord of the Rings and fantasy, then look at the prequels: Beren and Luthien, The Fall of Numenor, The Children of Hurin. So these are some of them. I highly recommend them.
I'm reading How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan.
Is it good?
It is. It's very good, basically on psychedelics.
Can you, in a nutshell, tell us the conclusion that he comes to in the book?
You should do drugs. That's the conclusion. Responsibly. But yeah, the benefits of microdosing, the benefits of doing small bits, especially
Mhm.
psilocybin for mental health, and just the science coming out is amazing. And I'm seeing this with clients of just, yeah, how like massive PTSD changes through people just microdosing for like a month. I definitely recommend it.
Brilliant. What was that book again?
How to Change Your Mind, it's Michael Pollan. And it's what the new science of psychedelic teaches us about consciousness, dying, addiction, depression, and transcendence.
Ooh. Okay, cool. I'm going to read that.
Definitely recommend it. And I think obviously you don't want to abuse drugs or do too much. You want to use them responsibly. But for people with PTSD or addiction issues, they can be incredibly beneficial. And especially things like psilocybin, it's plant medicine. It's something that just grows out of the ground. Yeah, it's not like some synthetic, cooked up in a lab type of thing.
And if you think about mushrooms and where it comes from and how they network and how they share information, it is a little bit like the brain.
Exactly.
The doctrine of signatures is that a plant will tell you what it's for by how it looks. So, I remember somebody held up, we call it sticky willy in Scotland. It's, I think what's its other name? Cleavers. And it's basically this weed that grows, and if you throw it, it will stick to fabric. So people would always pick this weed and throw it at people.
Oh, gotcha.
And in anatomy class, somebody picked this up, and they're like, what does this look like? It looks exactly like the lymphatic system. It's got channels and nodes. What is it for? It cleans out the lymphatic system, for example. So I think psilocybin and mushrooms, and I think, brain. It makes sense that it would fix that. It's telling you, here I am, here's what I'm for. Although I remain skeptical because I haven't read anything myself. I've only heard stuff. So
How to Change Your Mind, highly recommend. So on that note, hopefully that was interesting and helpful. And if you want to recommend this podcast, we'll be forever grateful. And give us a 5-star review, recommend it to your friends.
Email us at wtfstoriesandadvice@gmail.com. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Tell us your stories. Ask for advice.
And if you want to train to be a hypnotherapist, you should check out IHI. Because we teach people how to be therapists, which is probably a terrifying thought for a lot of people. But hey, at least you can laugh while you learn.
We're really good. We train the best hypnotherapists in the world, and I'm quite confident of that.
I agree. Definitely. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.